Hello friends, hello family, hello fellow strategy practitioners or business managers. With the 5-step growth strategy, I've tried to simplify that complexity in those 5 steps. So those 5 steps really are: step 1 is situational analysis. I use the 5C model just to try and gather the internal and external factors that are affecting the organization. Then number 2, step 2, I look at the shareholder value analysis, where I answer the question, what's in it for the shareholders, for the owners of the entity. Step 3, then I start looking at the VMSO model, which is vision, mission, strategic objectives. So high level, I challenge and I recommend, is this the right vision statements? Is this the right mission for this organization and strategic objectives? And that obviously now leads us to step 4, where we can start doing strategic goals. And you must remember that now becomes possible because you've got SWOT analysis, which came from the 5 C's situational analysis. So you now are empowered with what are the weaknesses inside the organization and what are the threats and opportunities outside the organization. And then within step 4, I still define the strategic options for the organization. I've chosen there to use UNSOF metrics and then also the Porter's generic strategies. And then also we do the value proposition statement in step 4, because this is a powerful promise to your target customers or target market. And then step 5, very important, I end up with measurements, performance measurements, which is KPIs, and also how we can set up good metrics, which in a way are more of a balanced scorecard. So they'll be looking at the customer side, they'll be looking at the financial side, they'll be looking at the internal, and then they'll be looking at the human side of things. And then those are the 5-step strategies. Then this episode that I've started, where I look at the 5-step business growth strategy, I'm particularly looking at entities that are listed on JSE. And why those entities is because their information is available on public platforms on their websites. So I only look at those organizations. So the first organization that I'm looking at is Raubex. So, and I want to make 2 disclaimers with this episode. Number 1 is that there was no communication with the organization that I'm actually analyzing in this episode and actually providing solutions for. No, so I'm just using that organization so that we can create a conversation and learn with that and see how strategy actually works and what decisions do they take, the managers there, to land themselves where they are. And also, if we were given that opportunity to assist that organization, what will we do? That's number 1. Number 2, I'm not using it for financial advice. I will be looking at many industries, by the way. It's just that, yes, we're starting with the Raubex, which happens to be in construction, materials and mining, but I will be looking at diversified ones like Bitvest as well. So I've done a few and then I'll be sharing. I hope you enjoy. Cheers. Hello friends, as mentioned on the intro, so this is the first organization that I'll be looking at as I unpack using the 5-step growth business strategy. And the whole point here is to simplify complexity in organizations so that we can see the opportunities for growth, and then also we can use some tools and techniques to suggest the recommendations for them to grow. But very importantly, the first section is probably to gather and find the insights so that we can see where the areas of underperformance, if there's any issues in an organization. Let's go. So what you can expect from this discussion now, the slides that I've prepared, is that we'll be looking at step 1, situational analysis. We'll be looking at step 2, shareholder value analysis and financial metrics. We'll be looking at strategic direction and resource alignment. We're looking at step 4, defining winning strategies, and then performance management. Let's dive deeper into the company overview and the business model. So Raubex exists and is also listed in the JSE as an infrastructure and construction materials supplier with over 50 years of experience, by the way. Roads and earthworks segments, that's where they operate. and then they're also in the infrastructure segment. They are also in the materials and mining segment, where they own some mines as well. We have gathered and tried to understand the current challenges, and this is what we could pick up. On the positive side is that there's a strong balance sheet because they've got a record order valued at 30 billion, and that is as of August 2025. And I need to remind you that the entire report, these slides are actually based on February 2025 annual report and the financial statements, but we also could pick up while we were doing the analysis the medium term for this year, which is post that financial year of February 2025. So this is August 2025, and that it's a strong financial foundation. Operating profit decreased by 28% during the first half of 2026. This is in the same period, and then indicating performance challenges, of course. And then contract loss impact, a significant 210 million rands loss resulted from a single terminated contract in Australia. So there is some problems and challenges in Australia. And then market uncertainty. This is obviously outside their control, as where the ferrochrome smelter market negatively affected construction material sales. Some of you might know with the ArcelorMittal South Africa challenges, and obviously it has reduced its capacity of smelting, so it's affecting suppliers like Raubex. On the first step that we'll be looking at situational analysis, let's dive deeper. So the overview, just for you who are not familiar with the situational analysis using the 5 C's framework, is that we'll be looking at the various 5 factors around the organization, which 2 or 3 will be for the internal, which is the company. Will be looking at the internal company, which is the C, the first C. The second C is the customer. We can say it's still an internal factor because it's their customer. And then number 3, we're looking at competitors, which is rivals. And then number 4, we look at the climate being the environment that they are operating in. What factors are affecting the organization Raubex externally. And then number 5 is the collaborators. We call them collaborators, but these are partners in the value chain. It's whether suppliers or business partners, but yeah, strategic partners. So we look at all those 5 things and how they impact Raubex. So we listed the significant ones first, and then we'll be starting with the internal factors, strengths and weaknesses. The company, we looked at that its strength is that it's diversified, and diversification is because they are operating in various products and services. They are not only operating in one, which means there's advantage that if another segment or another industry is not doing well, then it can be subsidized by another industry. And then the record 30 billion order book, as we saw there, and then there's high margin performance in South African roads and earthworks and infrastructure division. Weaknesses that we picked up was the significant loss in the Australia division, and then underperformance, operational issues in materials handling and the mining. And these are actually high in our book, in our evaluation, these weaknesses. And then on the external side, opportunities, a strong market momentum, private renewable sector, and then triple PP as well. And then also stimulation of the affordable housing market. But the threats are, we've characterized them as being adverse. And then the detailed 5C analysis will say the customer demand and growth. Raubex leverages strong demand in energy, public road sectors to drive growth in financial year 2025. And then strategic acquisitions for them, acquisitions like Axis Group expand services and geographic footprint, strengthening market position, so that they've leveraged on so that they can enter into new markets as well. And then market risks and challenges, political instability, Some of you will know in the construction, it's not easy at the moment to operate in the construction industry in South Africa. There's many pressing challenges. And then partnerships and tendering, selective tendering and strong collaborations with suppliers, financial institutions, sustain growth. So having summarized the 5 C's, obviously these are the key. You've got plenty. When you do the 5 C's in detail, let's say I was part of the Raubex group and we are doing a strategy session and we're doing situational analysis, you'll come up with a lot in that 5 C's, and those ones will actually give you the SWOT analysis. So we decided those are the key so that we can actually discuss and learn from them. Okay, so step 2, financial shareholder value and financial metrics. So this is answering the question, what's in it for the owner, for the shareholder? Should they continue to invest their money in this entity? And also it's answering the part of, how will I know if my money is doing well? Is it better than just if it was not at the bank? You know what I mean? So that's why when we come to step 2, as a strategy practitioner myself and all my clients that I work with, I make sure that I recommend the measurements or metrics, the KPIs that they should be looking out for. And I will be discussing which ones are those. So first one is the revenue, and then the next one is that the number of employees. This is more important for me in my day job, which is where I'm a strategy practitioner. I'm a productivity practitioner at Productivity SA. So we make sure that the clients that we assist, because we exist under the state-owned organization, we are under Department of Employment and Labor. Therefore, it's very important that when we do a turnaround strategy, there is a goal and a target to maintain the same number of employees or even more, but not less. So that's very important to us and myself as well as an individual, the human capital focus as well. And then if you look at the revenue, the base year is 21 billion, it's fine. And then operating profit and the margin of 7.4%, we'll be looking at that as a base, of course. And then we will just do a target as to what should we target for the owners to know that they've achieved, their money is working well for them. Then the asset, and then the last one, the ROCE, which is the return on capital employed. It's very important for myself. We've chosen that as well in this 5-step strategy. We could have chosen return on equity, return of on net asset. There's many things that you can choose to evaluate performance and strength of an organization, but we've chosen to go with the return on capital employed because this answers the question of how good is the assets that are employed working for the organization to achieve the operating profit. So return on capital employed is calculated at 16.15%. at the base. So we'll put a target. This is good, sounds good. Most of the organization, they try to go for above 12%, but it depends on industry to industry, and it depends on many aspects, of course. But this is just a guideline to say this is where we're going to be moving. So there's our targets now. We say revenue growth target in 2027 is projected to grow at 23 billion. This is now based on an assumption of 10% growth from year to year. That's from 2026 to 2027, 10%. And then operating profit of 8%. So these are just assumptions, my friends. Okay. So if I was part of the Raubex team and we're doing a strategy session, probably they'll come up with different ones based on previous performance, based on the last 10-year performance, based on their strength and all that. But we decided for this assumption, for the sake of us, to discuss this and challenge ourselves. Okay. And then capital employed to be increased, and then that brings us to the ROCE, the return on capital employed. We say then it will be 18%. Why? Because it's based on the targets and assumptions that we've made above of the revenue increase and the profitability of the organization. So just to put this in perspective, shareholder value step 2 is meant to answer the question, what's in it for the owners? Why should they continue putting their money in there? And how can they measure if their investments, their sweat, the entrepreneurial drive is actually yielding the good results? So we had to put something there. So when I do business growth strategy or sales and marketing strategy, I still recommend with all my clients that we need to define the shareholder value, which is how will you know that you are getting returns for the risk that you've taken, for the money that you're putting in. I hope it makes sense. Let's go. I don't want to lose you. Let's go to step 3 now. Strategic direction and resource alignment, step 3. Okay, so this I call it the VMSO, colleagues, friends, vision, mission, strategic objectives. So again, this is us challenging ourselves. We are giving ourselves a task as if Raubex said, come, Mr. Practitioner, come, Mr. Strategist, help me in steering this organization in a different way, in improving this organization. So we say, if we were allowed to change the vision, this is where we will be changing into, from the current one to be the African leader in road and civil engineering contracting, as well as in the provision of construction materials and mining. We say, if we look at the current challenges that we've seen and where probably we would like to take the organization to the next level, we will go with this vision of the leading diversified infrastructure development and essential services group, sustainably connecting and empowering communities across Africa and selected global markets. Look, we can sit down over coffee, if you drink coffee, and talk about why we came with this. There's many reasons, but I think it's empowering based on how we want to position the organization going forward. We didn't do anything to the mission, we just looked at the vision. And then when it comes to, let's call them strategic positioning. Strategic positioning is we try to analyze the organization in terms of, number one, how are they winning on the game? How are they gaining market share? And then we use Porter's generic strategies in that sense, because that helps us to think of, are they a cost? Are they winning on being a low cost, or are they winning on being a focus strategy, or are they winning on the product differentiation? So this is what we picked up. Broad differentiation. Raubex competes on uniqueness and scope of the integrated offering, materials to construction. Rather than just being lowest cost producer, its diversification strategy, size and level of the BEE differentiated in South African market, allowing for stronger margins in its core segments. Operating profit of 8% versus the target of 6 to 7. Yeah, that's what we picked up. That's how they differentiate themselves. So they are in the product differentiated market. They are not a low cost. That's what they've chosen. And then answer of metrics, it answers the question, how does this organization make decision on how to grow the organization? In other words, how the decisions around how to sell their products and services, and answer of metrics is very clean, it's very useful, very simple to implement as well, because answer of metrics has got 4 quadrants where it's it's either this market penetration. So answer of metrics says it's either you're doing market penetration, and I'll talk about the difference on this. I've got a separate YouTube video where I talk about the answer of metrics, but I'll summarize now. Market penetration, market development, and then product development, and then diversification. Market penetration is just an organization that will continue to sell to the current customers with the current products and services. So you're just increasing your business development, you're just increasing your sales and marketing. That's market penetration. Market development is if you are looking at different market segments, even if geographically you are taking your same products and services, you're saying, I'm going to go to a certain geographic area. That's market development, because you will be developing a new market. It's got its own risks, of course, because that market, you don't know about it. It might surprise you with a few things. And then I talk about product development. Product development, and again, on a separate video, I do talk about what circumstances can lead to you, an organization, taking product development. Product development is you are creating new products and services, but you are selling them to the same markets that you know about. Okay, diversification is the highest risk, my friends. It's the highest risk. I know it's a very sexy name that people like using. It's the highest risk because you are producing new products and services, and you will be selling them to different market segments. That's, you're diversifying altogether. So there's high risk because you never know if the products will be accepted well, and also the market, how it will react. But let's talk about now in particular for Raubex. We've seen that market penetration, product and market development is what was more dominant in their strategy. The strategy is to deepen market share in South Africa penetration by securing long-term high-margin Sun-royalty people concessions and concurrently drive product market development through the infrastructure division's focus on renewable energy projects. That is a new high-growth service in a market segment. Now, still within that step, we talk now to key resources and capabilities for competitive advantage. What we picked up is that on the human side, there's the tangible assets of the plus 9,000 employees, specialized engineers, project managers, civil contractors, managers with a track record in complex projects, of course. Intangible, that integrated execution capability, strong safety culture, ethical reputation, zero tolerance for fraud, deepen. So these are what we've been picking up as we're looking at the organization. So there's nothing new really here. And then the physical, we say modern, well-maintained fleet, heavy equipment, and then of course they are proprietary. On the intangible, on the physical, they are proprietary asphalt and bitumen technology that is established. Let's go now to step 4, defining winning strategies and options. Okay, so now we start with strategic goals. Let's call them strategic goals because this is now responding to the SWOT analysis and the 5 C's and the situational analysis. You must remember there must be mapping, there must be connection between the two. You cannot just put goals that is not responding to what you've picked up when you're doing the situational analysis. Then we said renewable energy sector, focus on accelerating infrastructure growth with 50% revenue increase target by financial year 2028. International operations restructuring. This is a bold move. Restructure international operations to reduce losses by adopting asset-light models and exiting risky contracts. And then mining and materials optimization. Optimize mining operations, focusing on new PGM plant. So strategic goals addressing the SWOT findings. That's what we could pick up as well. And then business unit restructuring and transformation management. Value and growth streams shift from functional to value-based structure, focusing on operational excellence. And then market development and optimization, core South African value stream, and then transformational leadership. So we only say they appoint a chief transformation officer, but this could be a new strategy manager in the organization, or it could be a business improvement manager, because most of the strategic business units, they focus on being a profit center or a cost center. You don't normally have this organization, or rather a business unit, that will be looking at the growth and the improvement of the organization. I've seen this with many organizations, including my previous organizations that I've worked for, that once you start becoming serious about the growth and improvement, then you might need to have somebody dedicated to looking at this, So lastly, we say the 3 horizon management model there: implement phased approach to maximize profitability, scale growth streams, pioneer innovative services over time. And then target market characteristics. So these are the target market segments, talking to the business units that we've suggested. South African core value stream, it must be talking to the public sector entities focused on long-term concessions. And then the South African growth and diversification stream, it will be looking at large private IPPs, industrial clients with strong ESG, value, technical specialization, and speed of deployment. So because we will be leveraging on Raubex's now differentiated resources and capabilities, so now they will be actually well placed to look at these target segments to grow the business. Step 5, final one, performance management. Very important, by the way, because if you don't do this correctly, the implementation or the whole strategy might not actually yield the good results, because that's where now you make sure that you measure yourself in terms of am I seeing the so this one we will be looking at the 3-year financial projections and key assumptions, by the way. So let's say the base 2025 is 21 billion. Let's say again in 2026 projected current, and then 2027 23 billion. And the assumptions are easy, my friends, is that 2027 we put 10% year-on-year growth in revenue, and then 2028, 8%. And by the way, just to give you some of the techniques when I'm doing strategy with my clients, is that when we set up any forecast and targets for growth, either on profitability or sales, the number, whether it's 10%, 50%, or 20%, I interrogate it with my client by looking at the pipeline, by looking at available opportunities, by looking at how much business development and how much tenders are out there in the market. So in other words, if you are selling, let's say, many units like breads, and then we say we want to grow by 8%. So what I will do normally, I will look at how many breads will we need to sell for us to actually increase our revenue by 8%. And then let's say I come up with a number that is 200,000 new loaf of breads that I need to sell for me to be up by 8%. Then I say, what markets can I sell that 200,000? If there is active markets that I'm working into to sell that 200,000, and maybe let's say there's about 4 of them, each of them is 50,000, I'm very sure that I'll be selling. Then you put that 8% or 10%. So I hope I'm making sense. So in other words, you don't just put a target. You need to interrogate, number one, the market share that you have. Number two, what we call total addressable market, which is, if I were to sell as many as possible, will it be possible to sell that number that I've just put there? So that's how we come up with these numbers, by the way. And then the budget recommendations as a percentage of sales is very important. I make sure I do this for my clients because I look at the industry norm. And also, so if you look at Raubex, I mean, the cost of sale, 86% is very high, obviously, but it's because of the business model that they operate in. You know, it's heavy in inventory, it's heavy in raw materials, so therefore the gross profit in its nature, will work as such. It's an industrial company kind of, so it's heavy. So even you can see the gross profit becomes 14%, construction group materials. And then also the marketing, we say 0.5%. And why the marketing is low? Because some of the organizations, we suggest that they must spend 5% as a percentage of sales to marketing and sales. It's because if you look at Raubex, it's a complex nature of how they develop their marketing and sales, because it's relationship based. Therefore, you don't throw like a lot of money into sales and marketing hoping that you'll get more work, but you need to actually be strong on relationships. So typical for B2B infrastructure group, where relationship based selling is primary. And then overheads, we said 6.5. that's the target for reduction and efficiency. This ensures that the 8% operating profit target is met. So if you look at 100 minus 86 minus 0.5 minus 6.5, it's called 7% as sales available for operating profit, aiming for 8% to beat the target. So that's how we come up with this. These are only targets, but you must remember, you put these because if you don't put any goal, you don't put any targets, you will fall anywhere, basically. And then balance scorecard KPIs for growth and accountability. As second last of my slides, I say the financial profitability, so we can look at measure. This is now, what will we measure? What will be the key performance indicators to look for? And of course, I want to put maybe a note on this, my friends, is that there's many metrics and key performance indicators we can put in an organization, but here I'm just putting high level. There's many that you can put. It can actually go to even 100 if you want, but profitability to improve shareholder value, the output and the indicator will be operating profit margin, and then growth, accelerated revenue growth, and then annual revenue growth, and then you've got capital efficiency, market position. But this is, you must remember, the targets I didn't put, but it's easy because we've been talking about it all the time. I hope you enjoyed this, because the whole aim of these slides, as I said when we started, is just for us to learn strategy, to see what's happening to the organization, and also put ourselves in that in that position that if we were to assist, if we were working for Raubex, what will we be starting to look at? So this is by no means, again, I will repeat, by no means trying to assist anybody with selecting stock and shares as to what to buy. This is not financial advice, so it was just to provide some entertaining education for us to talk about strategy and the decision by managers. I hope you enjoyed this, and then watch out for the next one. because I think I'll be looking at Palo World on the next episode. Thank you.